Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
Ninth Doctor book.
I've only read one Ninth Doctor book, and yeah.
We don't have a lot to choose from. There were the 6 novels. I decided to go with Only Human by Gareth Roberts.
Cool. Okay.
I've enjoyed Gareth Roberts' take on the 4th Doctor and Romana, so it'll be interesting to see how he captures Jack, Rose, and the Doctor together.
Yes, it will be good. I hope. Because I'm not as much of a fan as you are of Gareth Roberts' 4th Doctor books. But we'll see. We'll see.
And now our story continues.
Welcome to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London, not far from Bromley, of which more later. The clocks have changed, and it's not going to be pitch dark on my journey home from work, which is nice. Yeah, how are you? How are things?
Good. I'm glad spring is here and excited for all the snow to finish melting.
Oh, is it still going?
Oh yes.
Oh gosh, we had another visit of the beast from the east, as the press are calling it in a way that sounds slightly xenophobic, but you know, that's the British press for you, referring to the snowstorms we've been getting from Russia. And that's not the worst things we've been having from Russia of late.
Yeah.
Hi Putin, if you're listening. I was kind of driving around over the last week, and you could still see there was still some snow melting in some parts of the UK. It was parts of southern England on Friday, and just like, wow, it did its heaviest snowing previous weekend. So Britain grinds to a halt, as we said on the previous show, whereas places that are used to the idea of being sort of like northern hemisphere countries, not particularly close to the equator, can cope with the snow, but we can't.
And only 7 months away from new Doctor Who.
Yes, this is true. Shall we go on to show and tell?
Sounds great.
Do you wish to kick us off?
Yeah, for show and tell this month, I wanted to talk about 2 Big Finish audios that I listened to a couple weeks ago now. These would be Voyage to Venus and Voyage to the New World. They were, shall we say, heavily discounted by a recent Big Finish sale, but it was the first Jago and Lightfoot stories I listened to, and it had them in a pair of tales encountering the 6th Doctor. They were just a lot of fun and very reminiscent of that Jules Verne, H.G. Wells sort of time period. It felt very steampunky. And Voyage to Venus, I was getting a little upset listening to it because there were some major continuity errors, but in terms of like the Venusian history and timeline, but they were all sorted out very cleverly and were actually part of the plot. It's good to know going in for that one. And then the second one was a historical set with the lost Roanoke colony in Virginia, which was also pretty cool.
I think I've heard that one, yeah. Or at least I've heard a sampler, and I remember very much enjoying it.
Listeners, if you're interested in either Jago and Lightfoot, steampunk, Victorian era, sci-fi, and or are fans of the 6th Doctor, I would recommend these 2.
And they also did have the Mahogany Murders on a very cheap discount a while ago as well. I don't know whether that's still on a reduced price, which was the first. It was like the pilot to the Jago and Lightfoot Big Finish series. And that's a very enjoyable listen.
Was that part of the companion?
Companion, yeah.
Okay.
It was. It's very good. Cool.
So what do you have for show and tell?
Right. So I've kind of got 2 things So I'll kind of get the smaller one out of the way. Both of these are slightly tenuous in their connections to Doctor Who, but anyway, so it was very recently my birthday.
Many happy returns.
Many thanks. And we went off to Bletchley Park, which is where Alan Turing and various other fantastic minds in the Second World War worked to kind of crack the Enigma code as well as other machines, and sort of, if not quite invented, modern computer science sort of went a long way towards. And it's a fabulous place to go. Also, on that morning, I'd been given a copy of Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology book. And so I kind of thought, I'm having a Curse of Fenric birthday. So because that's probably my favourite of the classic stories. Yes, it was nice having a accidentally Curse of Fenric themed birthday. There were no haemovirs hanging around, but there was a member of the royal family, the Duke of Kent. Don't worry, you shouldn't have heard of him. Was opening up an exhibition. But but Bletchley Park, if anybody finds themselves in kind of like, Oxfordshire or that part of England, it is very worth your time, and you don't have to be particularly into computing. I think they do a very good job of explaining the difficulty of the problems in terms that laypersons can understand. It's really brilliant, and it's just very moving as well. Being in Turing's office and just thinking as well as to how horrifically Britain treated him. It was quite poignant.
He was also a Doctor Who character too, as well, right? The Turing Test novel.
Yes.
So not quite as tenuous.
No, not quite as tenuous. No. So which brings me into my other thing that is also, this will involve somebody who has been a character in Doctor Who. Way back when, at my university, Bill Clinton came to give his final speech as president on foreign soil. And so, like, the great and the good of Britain were kind of like assembled there. And because I was doing some work for the university, managed to get my hands on a ticket. And I was sort of like sitting up in the Gaza. I was just amazed at all of these famous folk that were all just kind of like mingling in front of me. Clinton gave a speech, which it was the kind of speech that you can give at the end of your presidency when it doesn't really matter. So how the world should be different. It was the morning after the 2000 election had been finally decided. There were some kind of comments about that. So went off to kind of like, there was a reception for the VIPs, and there was also like a reception for the students. And so I was there kind of just having food and drink with my fellow students, and then there was a small crowd wandering around. And so I decided to wander over and see what was happening. And they were talking to Professor Stephen Hawking. He wasn't with the VIPs. He was just mingling. And I chatted with him. And he was an incredibly kind of like warm and friendly guy. And he was really quite dismissive of the speech as well, kind of like basically saying what I was saying, that Bill Clinton had been, if he'd outlined his vision of the world sort of about 7 years prior, then might have actually been able to do something. Very, very warm and very friendly. I mean, the Doctor Who connection to Stephen Hawking is that he appeared in one of the New Adventures. I think he appears in The Dying Days. And he gets mentioned by Mickey as well. So kind of his genre history is more kind of like Simpsons and Star Trek, but apparently he was a fan of the show. My show and tell was a very tenuous thing, but I just wanted to kind of pay tribute to a great man who was really struck by the fact that he was kind of hanging out with us.
Yeah, that is really cool, and that you had an opportunity to meet him too. I
mean, I can't say I've ever understood any of his books. I mean, I did try reading. I was like, I'm not getting this. But yeah.
I think I got halfway through The Brief History of Time and was hoping for something slightly briefer.
Yes.
But no, what a fascinating man, and just super intelligent, and really advanced our understanding of the frontiers of science and how to think about different questions that we should be asking. It's just really incredible legacy that he left. So.
From there, where should we go? Should we go on to the book for...
Sure.
Yes.
So that brings us to our book selection for the month, which was Only Human by Gareth Roberts. This is a Ninth Doctor Rose and Jack story, and it was first published in September 2005, so in that 3 or 4 month gap where Eccleston series had ended and we were waiting or more like a 5-month gap, waiting for the Christmas Invasion with David Tennant. And it was published as part of the second set of 3 Ninth Doctor books. And then it was republished in 2013 for the 50th anniversary selection representing the Ninth Doctor era. And I think we touched on last month, there isn't a whole lot to choose from the Ninth Doctor era. But one interesting thing that I wanted to mention about the new series adventures, especially in the original kind of hardcover format, I don't know if you noticed or not, but all of the chapters are numbered in Gallifreyan. This may or may not be on the
No, I don't think
Kindle
it's on the
version.
Yeah, no.
So every chapter has like a symbol. So it'll say like chapter 1, but then it'll also have the Gallifrey symbol for the number 1. And if you look at the spines of all of the 9th and 10th Doctor books, they're all numbered in Gallifreyan on the actual spines. And the only way you can decipher which book number it is by finding the corresponding chapter and seeing like, oh, this is, so this particular book is numbered book number 5. And I guess that was kind of a helpful trick because when these would be published in groups of 3, you wouldn't necessarily know which order of the 3 to read them in. And it was also the only Ninth Doctor book not to include a reference to Bad Wolf in it.
Yes, I find it bizarre because it's set after Boomtown because I watched Boomtown just before recording this, and Jack is clearly quite new to the TARDIS in Boomtown, and he has a conversation with Mickey about the TARDIS's appearance in a police box, and none of that gets touched upon in this. So you kind of, I get the impression that it's his trip to Cardiff is his first trip into TARDIS.
Yeah, I think there might be a bit of a continuity error there because I think in the book he mentions that this is his first time visiting Rose's era.
Oh yeah,
so to me it would be set right before Boomtown, but there's so many inconsistencies between the two. I don't know that you can necessarily recommend. Yeah, it's like a Schrodinger's placement. It takes place around the time of Boomtown.
Yes, yeah, because also given how much, because in Boomtown there's that focus on the fact that Bad Wolf keeps on popping up everywhere. You'd have thought that somebody would have said, hang on, we've not seen any tenuous Bad Wolf references.
Wolves do get a single reference later on in the book, but not in that same context.
No.
We should talk a little bit about Gareth Roberts. He's written 3 episodes for the RTD era, and he's also written 3 episodes for the Moffat era. Yeah. So for RTD, he wrote Shakespeare Code, Unicorn and the Wasp, and Planet of the Dead. And then for Moffat, he wrote The Lodger, Closing Time, and The Caretaker. And he's also written 9 stories, so 18 episodes of the Sarah Jane Adventures. I don't know if he wrote for Torchwood or not.
I don't remember, no.
And he also wrote Attack of the Grask, which was like the interactive Red Button adventure with the 10th Doctor. And then he's written a number of comics for DWM. And then 2 Big Finish audios with Clayton Hickman, both with Mel, and both extremely funny. I've heard both of them. The One Doctor with the 6th Doctor and Mel, and then Bang Bang a Boom, which is a spoof of Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5, and Eurovision, all rolled into one with the 7th Doctor and Mel, and that one's pretty fun.
He certainly brings the comedy. I mean, and that's definitely true of the various new adventures that he's written as well, and sort of missing adventures, and as we touched upon sort of last time in book format, the TARDIS crew that you most associate him with is probably the 4th Doctor and 2nd Romana and K9. His Doctor Who credentials are in no doubt.
That TARDIS crew combination, the 4th Doctor, Romana, and K9, it feels to me, and we can touch on this too later on in our discussion today, but I think he very much views like the Graham Williams era as kind of the standard of Doctor Who. Some of the characters and descriptions in this book feel right out of 70s.
Oh yes,
Doctor Who. So
yes.
We kind of get a little bit of that mixing of time frames, like how we talked about last month with like the 1st Doctor finding himself in a Eric Sayward story. This feels a little bit to me, without spoiling it too much, like the 9th Doctor, Jack and Rose maybe have wandered into a Graham Williams era story.
Yeah, particularly a Douglas Adams one. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely later Williams.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So, shall we begin?
Sure.
Right, so the novel begins with a unexpected, for me, excursion into an area of London that's quite close to where I live, as I sort of alluded to earlier. Bromley is 2 boroughs away from where I'm speaking to you. So where I've not been to Bromley, there are various bits that are quite recognisable.
Prior to the Bromley scene, there's a short journal entry with a very disturbed young girl from the far future who is dissecting and putting back together her house cat and enhancing it with different abilities. And she shows up later.
Somewhat. So the story begins with a trip to a nightclub. Not the Doctor and Rose and Jack, but instead just kind of a couple of characters, sort of a woman and a man who kind of get into a fight. It's a fancy dress night, the nightclub, and certainly South London nightclubs are not necessarily the most peaceful of places. So was I was reading something, yeah, because Gareth Roberts apparently used to live in Bromley. And definitely there is a lot of South London in this, certainly in the early parts of the book. So the lady feels that she's been sort of eyed up by a chap dressed as a caveman. So her kind of companion kind of goes and sort of like picks a fight with this bloke, and he sort of says that he's like really smelly. He's homeless and everything. It becomes this kind of this brawl, and he's sort of like surprised by the strength of the guy that he's fighting. Turns out that it's the wrong caveman. There was a kind of another guy in a kind of like a fairly cheap caveman outfit who's kind of got away scot-free, whereas the guy that he's beating and being beaten by ends up kind of being taken to a hospital. And it's a kind of a slightly unexpected beginning. And we've also kind of cut back to the TARDIS, and where they're kind of talking about their kind of trips to go on a excursion to planet Kegron Pluva, and this is where we'll hear our recording for this week, our reading rather.
And our dramatic reading is by Anthony Head.
Yes, thank you, Anthony.
Who was Giles on Buffy and appeared in School Reunion in Doctor Who, and then was also the villain in a 4-part Big Finish story called the Excellus Quadrilogy.
And also quite famous in this country for doing the Nescafe ads many years ago.
The audio, by the way, is available on iBooks, Audible, or wherever fine audiobooks are sold.
You were going to love this, Rose, enthused the Doctor as he leapt from panel to panel of the TARDIS console, his eyes alight with childish optimism in the reflected green glow of the grinding central column. As always, Rose felt the Doctor's enthusiasm building the same anticipation and excitement in her. She grabbed the edge of the console as the TARDIS gave one of its customary lurches and smiled over at him. "Tell me more." The Doctor spun a dial and threw a lever. "Kegron Pluva," he announced grandly. "OK," mused Rose. "That a person or a place, or some sort of oven spray?" "Planet," the Doctor beamed. "It's got the maddest ecosystem in the universe." He flung his arms about, demonstrating. "You've got 6 moons going one way, 3 moons going the other way, and a sun that only orbits the planet. 43 seasons in 1 year. The top life form, a kind of dog-plant fungus thing." "Top dog-plant fungus?" laughed Rose. "Yeah," the Doctor nodded. "Plus the water's solid, and everyone eats a kind of metal plum." Rose held up a hand. "Enough spoilers, just let me see it." She was tingling with pleasure, goosebumps coming up on her arms at the prospect of stepping out from the TARDIS onto this bizarre alien world. "I'm really going to regret pointing this out," said a third voice, "but does that mean what I think it means?" Rose and the Doctor looked up to see Captain Jack, who had joined them in the control room, and was pointing to one of the instruments built into the base of the console, a small black box which was emitting a steady, flashing red light. He knelt down and fiddled with some buttons on the box. The Doctor joined him and slapped his hand playfully. "You're still here, then," he said, shaking his head mock-ruefully. "I've got to remember, put the parental control on." Rose looked the Captain over. He had obviously been plundering the Doctor's incredibly extensive wardrobe in the depths of the TARDIS, and was wearing an old-fashioned merchant navy outfit in blue serge with white piping.
Okay, yeah, so the TARDIS has been detecting a temporal distortion, and so somebody appears to have travelled to early 21st century Bromley using a dangerous form of time travel called a RIP engine. So the TARDIS materialises in a park, and the Doctor and Jack go off to try and find a time distortion. I know where Bromley is and everything. I'm not entirely sure to what extent it would be obvious to someone who doesn't know South London that Bromley is actually not its own city.
Like it's part of
London.
Yeah, it seemed to me like a suburb almost, like a
Yeah, but there didn't seem to be a lot of things to sort of say we're in South London. At least not as much as I'd kind of like expected, because there's a lot of UK references in this, a lot of UK cultural references.
Yeah, and especially 2005 references too. It
Yes.
feels very much of the time, not in a bad way. One thing I did want to mention is that there are certain turns of phrase that Gareth Roberts used that are just, some of his word choices just really paint just an evocative kind of mental
Yes.
picture. And
Yeah.
I wanted to just take a moment to read his description of the TARDIS materializing, because it's just eloquent.
Yes.
So here I go. Then in the far corner of the gardens, between a notice board and a dustbin, there came the rasping and grating sound of ancient unearthly engines. A light began to flash illogically in midair. Seconds later, the police box shell of the TARDIS had faded up from transparency. The pigeons scattered, the dog looked over curiously, but a pensioner who was good as deaf didn't notice at all. He has the ability to just kind of paint just an image like that. So
Not long after that, when the Doctor and Jack are kind of like wandering around kind of like Bromley shopping centre, they talk about the evangelical group trying to wrap people into the arms of Jesus. And I don't know whether those people still operate in Bromley, but they certainly still operate on the high street near where I live. So, I was like, yep, you know South London.
too funny.
Yeah, I think they might have migrated west over the intervening decade and a bit. So Rose pops into the local nail salon to try to find information, and there's no shortage of those or tanning places on my high streets. So she has a kind of a chat with one of the manicurists, and finds out that a bloke dressed in a caveman was kind of taken to the nearby hospital. That's their lead, because like the Doctor and Jack aren't really kind of getting anywhere. So the Doctor takes the TARDIS to the hospital, and then discovers that the army's kind of like moved in, and they're kind of like evacuating everyone. So they need a distraction. So Jack, a shy and retiring man, runs naked around the hospital, and so Doctor and Rose are able to kind of like slip in, and they kind of find out that the reason why the army are there is because this man dressed as a caveman is actually a Neanderthal.
Yes. And again, just with Gareth Roberts' prose, there's a scene where people are running out of the hospital, and the Doctor stops a cleaning lady and asks her what's going on, and again, just in a sentence, Gareth Roberts is able to give this lady enough background so that you can fully visualize and realize she's there. I think the phrase he uses is the cleaning lady with the guilty thrill of being able to share bad news in her eye leans over and says they're evacuating. Just little moments like that that I don't know what it is, but to me it kicks the prose and the narration up a notch from what we've been reading lately.
Yes, yeah. And also as well, staying with the hospital, he does make great pains to talk about how the hospital is staffed by people from around the world. And sort of like mentions Ukraine and sort of various other kind of like European countries, and these people are still the backbone of the NHS in this day, and it was lovely because like this really did feel like kind of like my London. Because like I know people in my borough who've come there from all over the world. It was just really nice to see this kind of like the kind of the cultural melting pot being kind of depicted.
And one of the nurses, who I think is an immigrant from Poland, named Veronica, you get a little bit of backstory about her, and kind of she's the nurse that's been taking care of this Neanderthal who was brought in. You do get enough of her backstory where she realizes that the Doctor and Rose are something special, and part of her is just screaming to say, "Please take me with you."
Yes,
but she does help out the Doctor and Rose. For some reason, she trusts them versus the others who are here examining the patient. There's a lot of scientists and military folk. The Doctor and Rose managed to wheel the Neanderthal out of the hospital, and Veronica's with them and misdirecting the soldiers and getting them to go elsewhere. And the Doctor and Rose get the Neanderthal into the TARDIS. At that point, the translation circuits kick in, and he's able to speak. And short kind of aside, I've always been kind of fascinated by Neanderthals and their history, and possible theories as to how they died out and all of that. And Gareth Roberts gets a lot of the details right with this, including their very high voices, which scientists have thought, based on skeletal construction and how the windpipe and the esophagus might have sat in their kind of their larynx, that their voices would be this extremely high pitched.
Yeah.
So the Neanderthal identifies himself as Daz. He says he followed one of Rose's people, a man named Ka, into a strange tree back in his own time, and by going through this tree, he found himself in a place of manufactured things, and then he was suddenly transported to the 21st century, where he wandered into the fancy dress party.
Yes, but also on the rare occasions that I have sampled South London nightlife, I mean, you do often need to have some form of ID, but maybe the door staff were new. Just looked at him and thought, yeah, you look old enough, and you're probably not a cop, we'll let you in. So Jack and the Doctor kind of managed to trace Daz's path through time, and they realise that he has come from well BC, like 29,000 BC. And so the Doctor sort of makes a firm promise that he'll take Daz back home. But then when the TARDIS kind of takes off, Daz starts to kind of disintegrate, forcing the Doctor to just kind of like abandon the flight. And what they realise is that Daz's body has just... It's just taken too much from the bad time engine thing, and so basically, if they do try to kind of take him through time, it will rip him apart.
I'm not sure how, but the TARDIS and even Jack's wrist device, his time travel arm thing, both of those provided some sort of protection against the time winds that allows people to travel multiple trips. And without that, if you're just using this like rip engine, it's really like a one-way trip. You're not able to travel back without fading away, kind of like the Fifth Doctor in the Five Doctors, just kind of disappearing from existence. But fortunately, the Doctors, I think, was able to, like you said, reverse it.
Yes.
So Daz didn't disintegrate.
Yeah, so you go back to 2006 Bromley. Doctor orders Jack to stay with him for a month or so to kind of help Daz get a good start in his life. So the Doctor arranges for kind of Jack and Daz to have a flat and a bank account accessible via a psychic credit card, which sounds lovely. And there's a great exchange here where Jack sort of says, "Well, why am I stuck with him?" And the Doctor sort of basically kind of says that he'd much rather be travelling with Rose if he has to choose. I mean, Gareth Roberts had been reading some of the scripts. I mean, he is able to get that dynamic pretty well spot on, I think, between Jack, the Doctor, and Rose.
I feel like his characterization of those three, even though they only spend, 2.5 episodes together on screen as this particular TARDIS team, Gareth Roberts does just a really good job of capturing their inner dynamic, their relationship. It just seems really spot on to me.
Yeah, I don't know to what extent this book was run past RTD, but certainly it was very clearly ran past the BBC office, and there was a lot of hard work that meant this does feel like the people that you're watching on TV.
That first year, especially with the first 3 or 6 Ninth Doctor novels, there was like really close integration with the TV series, to the point where I think in Boomtown, Rose lists off a bunch of places she's traveled with the Doctor, and they happen to all be locations from the books.
Well, also, I mean, if the TV series had been a flop, then this would have been the continuation of it, wouldn't it? The books would have been a continuation. So they have to make sure that the books kind of are kind of like an accurate reflection, and the stuff that people would want to spend time in, because David Tennant could have apparently expected to be the Doctor only on Big Finish.
And we should mention too that throughout the rest of the book, we get little updates from Jack and Daz with dueling journal entries.
Yes, and we will kind of come onto them, but they are brilliant. Because Daz tries to work out the world, but he works it out in a way that is different from what you'd expect, particularly because because of the focus that he has on sort of like man-made things, because he realises that that there are lots of things that are kind of made by man. Like, he has difficulty understanding some concepts like money. The Jack and Daz diary entries are just beautiful.
I don't know whether Gareth Roberts had read these or not, but his description of the Neanderthal culture and kind of their thought processes and how they're wired differently from like a comprehension perspective, a lot of that is very similar to... There was a book trilogy published in 2002-2003 that received a lot of praise in science fiction circles by Robert J. Sawyer. It was a Neanderthal trilogy, and the books were called Hominids, Humans, and Hybrids were the 3 titles. And it's about a parallel Earth where Neanderthals developed to be the main dominant culture as opposed to humans, and a portal opens up between the Neanderthal world and the modern human world, and you have these almost like an alien nation situation where you have these two cultures. It's really fascinating, but
interesting. Yeah,
a lot of what is in here feels similar to that, but I mean that could also just be both Robert Sawyer and Gareth Roberts basing their fiction on where the research was at the time, perhaps. Yeah. But it is kind of interesting to see that. So 28,000 years prior, back in Daz's era, a team of researchers have been observing Neanderthal culture for about 40 days. It's similar to like a duck blind experiment, like you might see in Star Trek Insurrection or First Contact, that episode where you have more advanced culture observing the less advanced culture from hidden places. There's a couple, Jacob and Lena, who have just received some bad news. Lena, who's already at this point nearly 400 years old, is about to suffer renal collapse and die. And she's told she has about 3 weeks to live. And you get kind of an understanding of how this group of scientists from the far future who've come back in time through a RIP engine to this prehistoric time, you get a sense of how they operate, and they're very much a drugged, heavily medicated culture where anytime they get what they call bad feelings or wrong feelings, they dial a certain code on their like drug dispensary pack, which is like a patch that they wear on their on their clothes, almost like similar to like a nameplate. And you dial in your code and then hit enter, and then all of a sudden, the bad feelings go away and you get a dose of whatever drug you need at that time. It's both creepy, but it's also you can see where the culture might be, going with this from today's perspective, and it's
scarily plausible, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Even more so, I'd say, than Nightmare of Eden in terms of looking at drug use. But you learn a little bit about these drug packs that they're wearing, and then Jacob starts thinking about some of the things that have been kind of mysterious over the past 40 plus days, where some of his coworkers have failed to return when they've gone into what's called the Gray Door in the research space. So there's this extensive underground research space that that everyone's living in. It's like an underground village, and their leader, who's Chantal Osterberg, who is the same little girl from the first journal entry, all grown up. She's the head of the project, and she's been sending some of his coworkers down to this gray door, and they haven't returned. And so that gives him anxiety, and then rather than try and find an answer, he just dials himself the proper drug combo and then forgets why his questions were so important in the first place.
Yeah, a fun setup. And so the TARDIS, meanwhile, is kind of materialised in this beautiful prehistoric forest. So, and it's made very clear that this is still Bromley. This is still the same area. It's just obviously before all of the concrete and stuff arrived.
The air's a lot fresher.
Yes, somewhat. So as the Doctor and Rose are kind of wandering around, they spot a chap wearing jeans and eating a baguette. And he's kind of like surprised to see them, so he runs off at incredible speed. And as the Doctor and Rose try to kind of like track him, they discover the half-eaten corpse of a woolly mammoth. And then the Doctor notices that some of the tooth marks are somewhat human-like. And they realise that whatever killed the mammoth is still near them. And then this kind of loud music blares out. And the Doctor and Rose kind of catch a glimpse of this kind of creature that's kind of running off. It seems to be kind of like a tall and gangly humanoid. And the music is being played by two guys, Tom and Jacob, who explain that they kind of use these music blasts to frighten off any of the indigenous animals whenever they visit the surface. Tom and Jacob assume that the Doctor and Rose are here to take them home, but other than that, they don't show any kind of particular interest in why the Doctor and Rose are here, or any emotion.
And they're also very physically fit and look, their appearance is described as like almost too perfect, like their faces are too symmetrical and no blemishes or they look like models or movie stars.
Yeah.
And their dress is described very much as like, this is kind of where that Graham Williams era comes in, because they're all wearing like flared trousers and tunics with like really large lapels, and their hairstyle is described as that kind of 70s shaggy hairstyle. So it feels very almost, I was thinking like not quite Movellans, but that sort of aesthetic.
It reminds me a bit of the end of the TV version of Hitchhikers, when you have the kind of future humans crashing on Earth and kind of like having to kind of meet the Neanderthals, or kind of like the cave people, and kind of just helping kind of like build a new society. It feels very much like that.
Yeah. So Tom and Jacob lead the Doctor and Rose to a tree, and this is they realize is the same tree that Daz discovered, because there's like a secret compartment that you press, and then the tree opens up to reveal a hydraulic lift which takes them down to the underground village, which, by the way, the village is built entirely from wood, and it's described as kind of put together almost like a shanty town meets like an IKEA village. It's just a mixture of different styles, and there are streets and homes and all that's underground. And the Doctor and Rose encounter some of the other habitants of the village, who are just as kind of handsome and bland as Jacob and Tom. But they do run into T.P. Quilly, who is the senior zoo tech, and he doesn't look like the others. Looks like he's in his 50s. He's older, kind of heavyset, and he's dressed in very anachronistic, kind of outlandish clothing. And he's considered a refuser, so he doesn't partake of the drugs that everyone else seems to be using kind of indiscriminately. And Quilly's the only one who's noticed really anything odd's been going on, and that they should have wrapped up this observation like 10 days ago or so, and they're farther into their 40-day trip than they thought. and no one is really, he's been raising concerns, and everyone else just kind of shrugs them off and dial more drugs. The doctor asks Rose to stick with Quilly and find out what she can, and so the doctor and Rose split up, and then Jacob takes the doctor to Chantal, the leader, who then assigns Lene. She's the woman who only has 2 or 3 weeks left to live, to kind of show them around. As they set off, the doctor notices that Lena appears exhausted, but she simply uses the combos from her pack to give her a fresh burst of energy, and she's not concerned that she's about to die soon. The doctor tries to shock her out of this by have her explain everything to him as if he's a stranger or a newcomer with no idea of why they're there, but she doesn't see anything strange about this at all, and takes to it and explains that the village was set up as an experimental observation post, and that Chantal her intelligence has been enhanced to the 810 plus level, which I don't know how smart that is, but it sounds very smart. And they wanted to launch the experiment at the earliest point in human history, when humans emerged as the sole kind of survivors of their genus, and find out how the Neanderthals were wiped out. And then if this mission succeeds, there are plans to create other observation posts in different historical areas too.
So meanwhile, Chantal receives a message from something called X01 requesting food. And so she sends Tina, who's one of the project's typists. And I'm not too sure they need typists, but hey-ho. I think a Graham Williams era expedition, though, would need typists, so it does make kind of sense. And so she sends Tina down to the Grey Door. So Tina's a little bit nervous because she thinks this isn't something that's particularly related to her job, and she's also worried that quite a few of her colleagues have mysteriously disappeared after going off to the Grey Door. But she kind of takes a dose from her combo pack just to kind of calm her down and sort of just make her all nice and chill. And so she goes down the Grey Door, and then something yanks her inside and bites her head off.
Yeah, I was getting flashes of Stephen King's It.
Yeah, it's a brilliant sequence. And it kind of, there is very much a dark humour in this book, and yes.
This sequence reminded me quite a bit of the setup in the Gareth Roberts story, The Lodger, where you have that apartment upstairs, and it uses different ways to lure people up through the door. It felt somewhat similar, like that to me. So now going back to early 21st century Bromley, Jack's trying to teach Daz how to fit in with the humans, and this we learn through journal entries from both Daz and then also from Captain Jack. Some of the concepts Daz is able to grasp really easily. He loves snack foods and chips and cookies, and he kind of works out that people of this time don't have to hunt for food, so they've grown bored and invented many other things to occupy their time. But in many ways, Daz's brain doesn't work quite the same way as a human's does. He's not able to lie, and he can't comprehend this concept of someone deliberately speaking untruths. Mm-hmm. So Daz wants to fly around, or notices, airplanes flying around, and wants to go in one. He was thinking they just kind of circle around Bromley and doesn't have a concept of like the world. So Jack decides to take him out to New York City, and they go out to the nightclubs there, where Daz meets a woman who likes guys that look like Daz, who like the more Neanderthal-looking guys. But he kind of scares her off because he tells her that he was transported through time, and he's actually a Neanderthal. That was kind of a fun sequence.
There's also like Daz gets the hang of television pretty quickly, but he kind of believes that it's a way of finding out what all the various other tribes are up to, and so he starts watching repeats of Are You Being Served, which he thinks it's the Grace Brothers tribe, and that they're all trying to sell, but that there is a crowd also in their shop that is kind of like laughing at them and their mistakes, and the crowd are cruel because basically the Grace Brothers people are so rubbish that they will fail to make money and then they will die. Because they won't be able to feed themselves. It's like, oh, poor Daz.
Yeah. Each tribe gets their own channel, so.
Yes. Yeah, brilliant. I just do love these bits. I mean, I think I'd happily read a book of Daz and Jack. I think it might possibly run out of steam fairly quickly. You might have to go off to some slightly strange places. They are just fantastic. And also how, you see things from Daz's point of view, and then you see Jack just kind of go, oh, God.
It'd be funny if Big Finish did like a Daz and Nimrod spin-off with the Neanderthal from Ghostlight.
Yes, yeah. So kind of back in the past, in the underground complex, Quilly is noticing Rose's odd behaviour and kind of realises that she's not really from his time period. So the Doctor then kind of explains to Rose that the researchers are from a period known as the Great Retrenchment, which is about 436,000 AD. And so when the Earth has kind of like become collateral damage in a war between sort of various intergalactic factors, there was a kind of like a magnetic wave sort of struck the Earth, which shut down all the digital technology and cut off the planet from its off-world colonies. It's interesting that Gareth Roberts feels he has to do that because if there was like a major sunspot stormy thing, I mean that could also cause some real problems for kind of like modern day tech in real life.
For sure, any like EMP sort of pulse from the sun, similar to like the Carrington event in the 1800s. If that were to happen today, for sure it would knock out all of our satellites and GPS, and we'd have to start over. And anything not inside like what's called a Faraday cage would basically all the electronics would fry. So it's like a real world concern. But yeah, he could have just had this set 1,000 years into the future, and not involve the kind of the galactic stuff too. But.
So the human race has had to kind of go back to kind of like analog mechanical tech, and so they're kind of concentrating on biological and chemical sciences, and also they've figured out sort of anatomy so precisely that they can take a human body apart and put it back together with no ill effects. This may become important later. And so most people from this era, apart from the refusers, use chemical blockers to regulate their emotions. And so as a result, no one feels anxious or worried, and nobody kind of like tries to kind of get anything more than what they already have. Yeah, there are some satirical, I don't know so much undertones or just overtones in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like that's another thing in common with like the Graham Williams era is the social commentary in this is not unlike what you might find in like the Sunmakers or some of the other stories from that era. So the Doctor and Rose meet up again after the Doctor encourages one of the other things they've done away with is the need to use the loo. So the Rose tries a pill for that, which is kind of a funny scene. The Doctor then asks Rose to go look around and try and find out more about the thing that had killed the mammoth on the surface. So Quilly suggests that she goes with one of the scientists and I use the term scientists loosely because these people are all kind of dumbed down.
Yes.
They have a very limited grasp of understanding of human history in particular. And one of the things I liked about the Quilly character is how he gets so much wrong about human history and, thinks a washing machine that Rose wants to use to clean some of her clothes is like a sacrifice to the goddess Vidal Sassoon or something to that.
Yes, or Hot Point or something. Yes. Yeah.
Rose goes to the surface and she goes with an observer named Reddy, and Quilly takes the Doctor to the Rip engine, which is steam powered and even more dangerous than the Doctor had anticipated because not only is it a Rip engine, but it's an analog Rip engine. It's also operating at full capacity, and the power is being fed to another part of the compound. The Doctor follows the pipes and of course they lead to that mysterious gray door where he and Quilly hear Tina apparently calling out for help. However, when they unlock the door with the sonic screwdriver, something large, gangly, gray, and humanoid kicks it open and throws out Tina's skeleton at them, and he's mimicking her voice, asking if the newcomers are humans. And realizing that the creature will eat them if it believes them to be inferior, the Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to knock Quilly's hat off his head without touching it, frightening the creature and making the creature kind of retreat back behind the gray door again. The Doctor and Quilly are able to lock the door, but then Chantel arrives with a remote control linked to Jacob and Lena's combo packs, who are the husband and wife couple in Lena's...
got the renal issues, yes.
Yep. The drug packs or whatever give them Jacob and Lena like a dosage, turning them violent and angry. So they're kind of like Chantel's mindless minions or soldiers, and then Chantel just has them forget that they even attacked the Doctor.
It's quite scary, the amount of control that Chantel has. In some books, it's not at all obvious who the villain is, but it's like from pretty much day one, it's like, no, Chantel's bad. So Reddy, we realise, is the baguette-eating chap from earlier that the Doctor and Rose saw when they first arrived. And so he kind of explains to Rose that the reason why he ran is that he thought that they were from a nearby human tribe. And these primitive humans aren't able to control their emotions, and sometimes they act strangely and do this weird thing called violence. Reddy says that he wants to understand primitive behaviour, but doesn't quite know how to. So Rose sort of removes his name tag and tells him that he needs to experience primitive emotions for himself. And so Reddy is kind of surprised by this, but thinks, yeah, this makes sense. So he takes Rose to the Neanderthal camp where they kind of like know him and accept him. And one of the girls called Ka regards him as her boyfriend. And so the thing I find interesting here is how they've been able to speak to each other before the TARDIS arrived with its translation circuits. But yeah, so Rose tells the Neanderthals that Daz is safe and well, but won't be able to return to them, and they accept this, and they're just kind of relieved. I do find it odd that they just kind of accept us at face value. But and just as Rose is kind of is starting to relax a bit, humans from the nearby tribe attack the camp, and then when kind of Rose tries to intervene, the humans capture her and drag her back to their caves.
And throughout all of this too, Reddy is, because Rose threw away his name tag, which has the drug dial-up.
Combos, yeah.
He's experiencing all sorts of different emotions that he's never experienced before throughout all of this. So we get his reactions to everything as his head starts to clear too.
Yeah, so you've got this interesting parallel between him learning about himself and you have Daz learning about the world that he's in. So you have all these people exploring in many ways.
The Doctor wakes up and he realizes that Chantel has given Quilly a drug combo pack and sends him back to work, and that she's also attached a pack to the Doctor and has been giving him large doses of drugs, preventing him from feeling anxious as she operates on him and studies his alien biology. There's this really creepy scene where the Doctor talks about his heart, and she says, "Which one? This one?" And she holds it up and shows it to him. She's just in there kind of tinkering around, and
she's brilliantly grim, isn't she? Yeah. It's like, oh god.
She says that she knew that the Doctor and Rose were lying about kind of where they were from and that they weren't from the same time period, but she wanted to let them wander around on their own so she could observe them and find out what they were up to. She also talks about how she was the one who was responsible for sending Daz to a random place and time just because he had broken into the underground complex by going through the tree entrance. And so she ended up sending him to 2005 or 2006 Bromley. And she was like, don't care what happened to him. At this point, the Doctor's learned too much about Chantel's plans, and the creature that she was creating was called a Hybractor, and there's more than just one. She's created 4 of them. And she finishes kind of looking around the inside of the doctor and puts him back together again. And there's no scarring or anything like that, but he's very unsettled. And that, his ideas are still coming to him, but they're coming to him very slowly. Like, he gets one idea every 30 seconds or so. He is able to get up after Chantal seals him back up, jumps off the operating table, overpowers her, kind of fuses the wires, ties her up with the sonic screwdriver, and then he sets off to find Quilly. He does meet up with Quilly, and they kind of run out of ideas for a while, and he starts succumbing to the drug pack again. But then he sees Rose's jacket, the one she was going to wash earlier, from all the mammoth stains, and that he realizes that he should go looking for Rose. The doctor does.
Meanwhile, Tom, one of the kind of the handsome chaps from earlier, finds and releases Chantal, and because of like the emotions that he's already had suppressed, he's not really kind of like asking too many questions when she orders him to accompany her to the Grey Door. And once she releases the Hybractors, who eat Tom. Ah, poor Tom. And so, thanks to the Doctor's interference, Chantal's having to kind of like move her plans forward. So she sends out sort of her creations to kind of just go and eat the humans, though giving them very strict instructions to eat any of them apart from her and the Doctor, because she figures the Doctor could still be useful. And so, meanwhile, it occurs to the Doctor that need to remove his combo pack and Quilly's as well. And while searching for an antidote, he realises that the refills have run out. And so he first ran out that Chantal sort of no longer needs to kind of like keep her staff under control. And then the Hybractors arrive and start to eat the bewildered villagers. And some of these scenes are hilarious, because the Hybractors are coming up saying, "Excuse me, are you human?" and start kind of like knocking on doors and saying, "Terribly sorry, there are any humans in here." And it's so Graham Williams, isn't it? It's very funny. So the Doctor slaps Quilly until he's angry enough to negate the effects of the combo pack and sends him to rescue the surviving villagers. Whilst he kind of goes up to the surface to save the native humans and the Neanderthals, and of course Rose.
And Rose, after being kidnapped from the Neanderthal settlement, she wakes up to find herself now captive of the humans, the cave people of the time period, and they all think they had rescued her from the Neanderthals. You get a lot of good commentary in this section and throughout the book about tribalism and in-groups and out-groups, and why exactly humans think Neanderthals are unlike them and evil, which I appreciated. That was there. The matriarch of the human tribe, her name is Nan. She assumes that Rose was sent to trade with them, and thinking that she might be from the nearby river tribe, and she wants to know what her skills are. And that Rose kind of realizes if she doesn't have anything to contribute to the group, she might be in a very bad place with these people. So she offers to do all the cave people's nails and give them manicures and pedicures.
And rather wonderfully, you have men as well as women queuing up to have the nail treatments.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really nice.
And Nan is impressed with Rose and her skills as a manicurist, so she thinks that she'll make a good addition to the tribe. And then she announces that Rose is now betrothed to her grandson, Talon, which Rose is not at all excited about until she gets a look at Talon. She describes as the most fit and attractive boy she's ever seen.
This feels like Rose, isn't it?
Yeah, I could see like Barbara or someone winding up in the same sort of situation too. Just this whole marriage by... Yeah,
this is true, but I can't imagine Barbara kind of go, "Oh, he's fit. Oh, yeah. I might play along with this."
For sure. Yeah. Not that part.
No.
Even so, Rose says, marriage is probably a step too far, and she must appease her god, who she calls Ooh La La, by walking alone to face the sun before the wedding. Nan reluctantly agrees, but Talon isn't fooled and follows Rose into the woods, genuinely upset as to why she's rejecting him because he's all set to be like the king of this tribe, and he wants to understand why she wouldn't want to marry him when he always gets what he wants.
Yeah, it's slightly creepy, that, particularly
Yeah.
in the 2018 lens.
Yeah. The doctor arrives and used his psychic paper to tame a wild horse by convincing it that he is the god of horses. So
How many horses read? I mean, because like surely a psychic paper. I'd have thought the psychic paper wouldn't work on something that wasn't used to the concept of writing. I mean, I think it has been used on some people that were illiterate. I seem to remember that happening in the TV show.
I think it also can show images too, so maybe it was just
Yeah.
something in the horse's mind that convinced who knows. He's able to ride a horseback
Yes.
from it, and then he warns Rose of the danger about the Highbrachters who were let loose. But when they try to go back to warn the rest of the tribe, nobody will listen to the doctor since he isn't one of them. So frustrated by this, Rose gives in and agrees to marry Tulun, because if she marries into the tribe, then they said that they would heed her warning and listen to the doctor, because by extension he's like Rose knows him. So they would only extend this, extend the circle of who would be included in their tribe or group if Rose agrees to the marriage.
Meanwhile, back in the future, in Bromley, Daz is starting to get his head around the idea of lying. And so he's able to get a job as a construction worker by saying the reason why he looks slightly different from them is because he's from Romania. But yeah, I kind of buy it as well. If you're given some sort of blasé, everyday, okay, I haven't been to Romania, maybe. So Daz is enjoying his new life because he's not having to kind of go out and hunt for food every day, and so it feels quite relaxing. He's kind of going out clubbing with less violent altercations than before, and here it gets a little bit odd because Daz meets a lady who he believes to be the most beautiful woman he's encountered so far. A woman whose friends call her Big Fat Anne-Marie. And sort of Daz proposes to Anne-Marie, much to her father's delight, as he never thought his daughter would find a match. And so the implication, in fact, I think it's actually stated, because of her build, she's kind of like regarded as being kind of like healthy, and because she's able, from a Neanderthal point of view, because she's been able to eat so much. I don't know. I think that there's a bit of commentary in here about kind of like changing perceptions of beauty. But also, though, there's the sometimes slightly uncomfortable attitudes that RTD sometimes showed to kind of like larger people, where kind of like RTD could sometimes be really cruel in some of his writing. And just like, really? So, yeah, I found this bit odd.
Yeah. I think it's helped a little bit by the way Gareth Roberts, the criticism or the people calling Anne-Marie fat or heavyset are all that is coming from her quote unquote friends.
Yeah.
And it's not coming to her at all from Jack or Daz or
the narration.
Yeah, from that
Unlike last
perspective.
month.
Yeah. So I think that's a way to kind of to include it without making it seem like they're endorsing that cruelty, I guess.
Yeah. Jack's kind of itching to move on, but he's also kind of relieved that he's managed to prevent Daz from hooking up with another woman that they met briefly at a nightclub, Rosa's mum. I wonder whether originally this was going to be Mickey rather than Jack. It would make a lot more sense. Because like Mickey is more of a supporting character, because like Jack doesn't really have much to do with the main strand of this book. It would have made more sense for this to be Mickey.
Back in the underground complex in the past, Quilly's trying to explain the situation to the other time travelers, how much in danger they are, and he's trying to get as many of them as possible to evacuate, and go up the lift and out of the tree. But the only villagers he's able to convince is Lena, who has the terminal diagnosis. Because her combo pack's already run out and she's beginning to become frightened. And then her husband, Jacob, also accompanies her and Quilly to the lift. And moments later, the Highbrachters arrive to that section of the village and continue to wipe out all the other villagers who are being eaten. And those three are the only three that manage to escape to the surface, but one of the Hybractors follows them up the lift shaft.
Rose is officially wed to Tillin, thus becoming Rose Galaficamaliac. Yeah, I'm not going to try to pronounce that again. But anyway, so the tribe now listens to her warning, and so they flee to safety in their caves before the Hybractors arrive. All apart from Rose herself, who kind of rides off with the Doctor to kind of warn the Neanderthals. And so Tillin, furious by all of this, kind of attacks the Doctor and is accusing him of stealing his wife. And the Doctor overpowers him and flees with Rose on the horse that believes him to be a god. They now realise, the Doctor and Rose, that the creature that killed the mammoth was a Hybractor that Chantal had kind of let out to try to kind of get it acclimatised. But they don't know why she's kind of breeding these creatures. And then they arrive at the Neanderthal camp too late, and the Hybractors have kind of been there, and they've eaten most of the Neanderthals, leaving only a few alive to lure the Doctor and Rose into a trap. And it's quite sad because it's made very well. It's somewhat implied here that sort of that Reddy and Carr have probably died. It's quite shocking because there are piles of kind of like neatly sort of chewed bones, and it's very grim. And Chantal is there, and she kind of stuns them into submission. And orders the Hybractors to spare Rose unless the Doctor refuses to cooperate.
And here we get another kind of interesting commentary about the violence in the Neanderthal village, and I think Chantal mentions that if it wasn't her and her Hybractors, the Neanderthals would have met the same fate from the humans of the time anyway. It's really sad too, because you kind of realize that the Neanderthals are doomed no matter what, even though they're pretty peaceful and non-aggressive and non-violent. So back in the underground complex, Chantal takes the Doctor and Rose back down there, and she reveals some of her plan in that Doctor Who fourth episode of a series sort of way. Chantal had concluded that Homo sapiens are perfectly adapted for survival as primitive hunters in a cold climate. However, when the Ice Age ended, humanity retained its hardwired aggression and competitive nature and spread across the world like a plague. Chantal then became director of the project by killing off her rivals who might have also headed up the project. And once she had returned to the dawn of human history with the underground complex, she started building an upgraded form of humanity, using the extra energy from the RIP engine to accelerate their growth. And once the Hybractors have been released, they're going to devour all other species and replacing humanity and creating a new utopia in Chantal's image. And to ensure that her project would succeed, she had surgically removed her empathy along with the other humans. So the Doctor's unable to convince her that what she's doing is wrong. And also, back when Chantal had been drugging him with a combo pack, he had told her about the TARDIS. She wants to now access the TARDIS to, spread her vision of quote-unquote utopia all across time and space, not just limiting it to Earth.
And, the Doctor refuses to help her until Chantal reveals that she's surgically removed Rose's head from her body. And Rose doesn't realise this at first, but I mean she's still alive. Yeah, her head is on top of a table, so the Doctor is reluctantly preparing to let Chantal into the TARDIS. But when Rose tries to step forward to stop her, a cabinet on the other side of the room kind of clatters. And the Doctor realises that Rose is able to control the lower half of the body, even though her head's not attached to it. It's not made at all clear how this is working.
Some sort of Wi-Fi signal.
Yes, yeah.
This reminded me quite a bit of both Mars Attacks, that movie where you have the heads being swapped sort of thing, and then also an old Mystery Science Theater 3000 called The Brain Who Wouldn't Die, which was Mike Nelson's first experiment on the satellite of love, and the woman on the table talking with her body elsewhere. It's one of those classic, super over-the-top, campy 1950s throwbacks.
It's also a bit like Return to Oz as well.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that one, but for sure,
Yeah.
the witch in that.
But yeah, so the Doctor distracts Chantal by talking about the intricate technology in the TARDIS's lock. And Rose, she's now kind of getting over to shock as to what's happened to her, and kind of steps out of the lock, and that's just enough for Chantal to be distracted. And so the Doctor's able to kind of like overpower her. And the Doctor sort of says rather sweetly that Rose's trust in him is proof that evolution sometimes gets it right. And he then slaps this combo pack onto Chantal's chest and gives her this dose of emotions or suppressants to the fact that she's completely unconcerned about the fact that she's just been defeated by the Doctor.
I wonder, because I would think Russell T Davies probably read all these novel, at least the first year. I know Gary Russell was brought on, I think, starting in year 2 to kind of maintain continuity with all the different spin-off novels and stuff. But I can't help but wonder if the Russell T Davies story, Gridlock, from early season 3, if he was influenced by this, because there you have, the different drug stands or the different shop stands open up, and, they're selling things like happiness and melancholy, and I wonder if there was maybe some influence there or not. The Doctor then uses the equipment in the laboratory to force cultivate a particular gene, slice it into some gut bacteria, like a gun that dispenses the concoction, and he assures Rose that he'll return for her, both parts of her. Up on the surface, the Doctor takes his spray gun and spreads this compound quickly, and it has an interesting effect. One of the Hybractors catches Tillin searching for Rose. Another Hybractor finds Quilly cowering with Jacob and Lena, and a third finds its way into the laboratory and advances on Rose. But Rose picks up her head from the table, points it at the Hybractor, and spits out a sheet of fiery acid, which blows its head off, as do Quilly and Talune on the surface, all at the same time.
It's very convenient, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're not just kind of...
they know what to do, yeah.
Well, yeah, they don't accidentally burn themselves or somebody else.
Yeah, spitting fire.
Yes.
3 out of the 4 of the Hybractors are killed because of this.
So the Doctor returns to the laboratory and assures Rose that this kind of this ability to belch fire is going to kind of fade away within minutes. But meanwhile, Chantal's kind of wandered off when she's got this vague sense that her plans failed. And so she's kind of thinking that maybe she should use the RIP engine to kind of go to 21st century and start afresh. And so the Doctor and Rose arrive too late, but as she steps into the time field, she's kind of torn apart, just as Daz nearly was earlier. So the Doctor, his fears have now been proven right, that the RIP engine is becoming unstable, and the Doctor and Rose retreat to the TARDIS and escape moments before the RIP engine explodes, which wipes out the underground complex. However, Rose's head is still separated from her body, and the one person that knew how to fix it, Chantal, is dead.
I wonder how she's going to get out of that one.
And there's this kind of strange, like, Perry-like vibe, because it did make me think of, like, Vengeance on Varos, when, Perry becomes a bird for reasons that are, very obvious. And just conjured back memories of that, of kind of, like, unnecessary experiments on companions.
Yeah. The Doctor then materializes on the surface. The TARDIS had been brought to the underground complex earlier, and he meets up with Tillin, who's found Quilly, Jacob, and Lena. And when the Doctor emerges from the TARDIS, Tillin, who's Rose's husband, spits at him, but fortunately his ability to spit fiery stomach acid's worn off. So he just spits at the Doctor, and he runs away, fleeing in terror when the headless Rose steps out of the TARDIS carrying her head with her.
Well, it's a fair reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, even after a short romance, you'd be kind of like, okay, yeah, this is weird.
Yeah. The last of the remaining Hybractors arrives, but the Doctor informs it that Chantal died after passing on instructions that the Hybractor is no longer allowed to eat human beings. since the Hybrakter is still relatively young and was already told not to eat the Doctor, and similar to Daz, doesn't have any understanding of the concept of lying. It accepts the Doctor's claim and agrees to live in peace with the human beings and only eat other animals, not humans or Neanderthals.
Lena then reveals that conveniently she's got the knowledge to reattach Rosa's head. And so she does so. And then she collapses and dies. So that was very good timing. So Jacob begs the Doctor to save her life, but there's nothing that he can do. So Quilly shows genuine sympathy for Jacob's loss, instead of the kind of like the overblown emotions he's shown before. And as he comforts Jacob, he accepts as well the Doctor's claim that they'll be unable to return home and that they're going to have to make a new life for themselves with the cave people. And, the Doctor and Rose return to 2005 to pick up Jack, but they're able to kind of sit in on Daz's wedding to Anne-Marie. And speaking of weddings, back in the past, Quilly marries Nan, so their two tribes may be united. And then when he realised that some of the Neanderthals had survived a Hybrakter attack, including Carr and Reddy, he asks Nan to accept them into the tribe as well. Nan agrees, albeit reluctantly, thus making the human race just a little bit more civilised. And there ends the book on that rather lovely note of kind of, integration and people coming together. Which seems something sadly missing from the popular discourse.
Yeah.
So, whilst this was a book of 2005, it definitely, I think, speaks to 2018. Despite its flip phones and various other bits of 2005 culture.
Yeah.
So, what do you reckon?
I really, really enjoyed this one. It was easy to read. It was a quick read. I think I read it in 2 sittings. It was... It had that balance that I really like from books where you get the plot, but it's not just the plot. You get characterization. You get moments of kind of slice of life. It's weird because this book contains a lot of my favorite like sci-fi elements. Like I like learning about Neanderthals. I like stories where there's like a fish out of water. Like my 2 favorite Torchwood episodes are the one with the 3 people coming, from the 1940s that have to resettle in modern time, and then also the one where Tosh is unfreezing the guy and he experiences like a day every year sort of thing.
Yes, both beautiful episodes.
Yeah, and really that, person out of time element, which is really strong here. I also really liked how 1970s this felt in terms of the Graham Williams era and the humans from the future, and just that they were, they all had huge name badges and they had their flared trousers and they were using pneumatic tubes to communicate throughout the underground complex. The technology just felt so 70s. I also like how the story matches this point on television. So, you don't have any mentions of Gallifrey by name, even though the Doctor alludes. So it's very much kind of, it meshes up nicely with where the story was at the time on the television screen too. What did you think of it?
I enjoyed it. I mean, it very much feels of the era, which is kind of written. Even though, yes, it feels very Graham Williamsy, but also you can easily imagine the Hybrakters being kind of being done in the 2005 era of the show. It wouldn't require a lot of change. Possibly they wouldn't have to trip to New York on the BBC budget. I have the kind of like the extra benefit of like when the Doctor says that he goes to the Gap in Croydon to kind of like to buy most of his outfits. I'm like, yeah, I've been there. So, and also it explains away his costume in that incarnation, because that does feel like something that someone's just gone to the Gap and bought. It's great. I really did love this, and yes, the writing's very kind of clear. Whilst it's it's probably, from a writing point of view, it's aimed at a slightly younger audience than the New Adventures and the kind of like the Eighth Doctor books. It's still, you've got these kind of messages of kind of tolerance that's kind of like coming through, which I don't know if I actually kind of like expected that to kind of come through quite as strongly. It's rather lovely. And also, I mean, because apparently it was on the back of this book that Gareth Roberts was asked to write the Shakespeare Code, and you can kind of see why. Because I mean, this does feel like it's very much of a piece of the of the TV show, and kind of makes me a bit sad that we'll most likely never ever have a big Finish series of the Ninth Doctor, Jack and Rose. Yeah.
We'll never say never, but yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yes,
I remember in '99 when Gary Russell launched the Big Finish line at Convergence, he said, we're never going to be able to get Paul McGann, so don't even ask.
Yeah, but Paul McGann's not been quite as negative about his
true.
experience.
True.
Because Eccleston's been making much stuff in the press over here about the fact that he's recently been allowed back on the BBC, and he feels that the BBC had kind of sort of chucked him out. We'll never see him in anything Doctor Who related, I think.
How would you rate this particular story?
How would I rate this? Yeah, I think it's an 8. I do. I mean, you've got some lovely comedy. I mean, I think part of it is, I mean, it's quite light in places, even though it does touch upon these important messages of kind of everybody working together and integration and dear to my heart. But I think if it was a stronger plot, I think I might have kind of given it a 9. But yeah, I mean, the stuff with Jack and Daz. I mean, okay, if you've listened to this far and you've not read it, still go and read the book, because the Jack and Daz stuff is just, it's worth your kind of £4 or however much the Kindle is alone. And it's brilliant. And we've not really gone into sort of much of the detail of their diary entries,
including when the cable or the Sky TV guy comes to install the television, and Jack and the TV tech decide to go off for a walk together and leave Daz alone for a while. Yeah, there's all sorts of fun moments in this book, and their whole trip to New York City is hilarious. And like I was saying earlier, so many of the minor characters, just in a sentence or two, you get a strong sense of who they are. Like just the opening character, not the nurses in the hospital, the opening people at the costume party, the Roman and the astronaut, and getting the wrong caveman. I mean, you get such a clear sense of their character.
But maybe not so much in the prehistoric stuff, though. But because their emotions have all been subdued, I think that's probably got a large part to it. Because that's the thing. I mean, I think Gareth Roberts is brilliant at slice of life stuff, as shown by the Lodger and the Caretaker. I think if the plot had allowed us to kind of get more of a taste of some of the characters in the prehistoric time, then I might have kind of gone a little bit higher on my grade. But yeah, what do you reckon?
For me, it's a 9,
Okay.
and it was so close to being a 10. Like even up till the final 10 or 15 pages or so, I was thinking, is this going to be my first 10? But a couple of, I think it was really the whole fire belching part where that seemed like such a rushed resolution and just so kind of fantastical that
You say that. It's very RTD though, isn't it?
it is, yeah. But to me, it was just like one absurdity too far. Like if they had left it with Rose, with the head, talking and going to that, it would just push the envelope that little bit too far for me. And then some of the ridiculousness of the whole marriage subplot felt like Rose got hit on a few too many times by too many different characters in this book. But I mean, it was almost a 10 for me. It really was. But I would give it a 9. Some of the kind of fun continuity references that are in this book too. The fast return switch gets used. I think Jack is wearing Ben's sailor suit for much of this book.
Yes, could well be, couldn't he? Yes, yeah.
And hey, you get a reference to Farscape in the book too. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said earlier, it had all of my favorite elements. You've got duck blinds, hidden underground cities, Neanderthals, kind of the intermittent journal entries that change up the narrative a little bit.
Yeah.
I love it when there are like time archaeologists that get stuff wrong, like you had with the Quilly character.
Yeah.
It was just really well paced, very breezy, but there were moments of really profound depth in it. Like I was saying, it has a lot to say about tribalism and kind of the modern forms that takes today. So, highly recommended.
Yeah. I was half expecting a reference to the Tribe of Gum, which is almost kind of like conspicuous by its absence. It's like, because we don't know where the Tribe of Gum are. They could be in Bromley.
Yeah, they could be, and Ka could be. Isn't there a Ka in Tribe of Gum too?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think so.
But yeah, the doctor mentions that he's encountered Neanderthals before. But yeah, that could be referring to Ghostlight or something else. I was a little surprised too that they didn't get a direct reference. But again, just a minor criticism, I think, of overall a pretty strong and solid work.
Yeah. No, it's good fun. So shall we go into any feedback?
Did not check before. Let me pull up the...
We have more things on iTunes.
Oh, do we?
Breaking news, yes.
Ooh.
So we've not heard from Marge 5717 before. So she said, great podcast that makes me think about what the Doctor's up to between his televised adventures. Fun host with good rapport too. That's nice.
It's lovely.
Yes.
We have one from Jen, an iTunes review from January, and she writes, great podcast. That's all.
I think we've heard from Jen or Jennifer, haven't we? I think we got an email from her last month, yes.
Yeah, I think an email, yeah. But it looks like she left a review in January too, so that's cool.
Okay, cool.
We do not have any emails this month.
Okay.
If you would like to send us an email, feel free to email us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to read your feedback in a future episode. If you have comments on Only Human, this month's book, or last month's 10 Little Aliens, or anything you want to talk about, feel free to email us.
Yeah, or any suggestions of anything that you would like us to to look into, that'd be great. On the Facebook side, we had a lovely review from Joe Candora, which he said some very kind things about us, which was always good to hear. And he also asked if we were thinking of doing any kind of spin-offs. I think probably not just yet, of kind of going into the spin-off media, but at some point, I think we probably will, but might kind of, I say, not in the immediate future.
Yeah, there's just so many ranges and formats of. We still haven't even done like any of the Telos novellas or any of the Targets or any of the
Fifth Doctor
or Sixth Doctor.
Yes, yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I think we're primarily a Doctor Who podcast, and I think it might be interesting to someday dip our toes in Faction Paradox or some of the Benny adventures, certainly. But yeah, I want to, I think, pick something that still has some sort of obvious tie-in to Doctor Who, even if the Doctor's not in it. I mean, we've done, and we may do in the future, some Doctor Light books where he's not in it that much. So we did that with Face of the Enemy.
Yes.
But who knows? Someday we might do that.
Yes, who knows?
So, speaking of book selections, Chris, what are we reading next month? Is it something 5th or 6th Doctor related, or is it something else entirely?
So, it is something that related to the 6th Doctor. So, when I think of the 6th Doctor in the spin-off media, I think of Big Finish, I think of some of the novels, but I primarily think of him in the comics. And if you're going to be doing the 6th Doctor in the comics, where's the best place to start? let's start with Voyager. So we're going to be doing Voyager next month. We'll be doing the Panini edition. Marvel did a graphic novel collection in '89 that sort of did just Voyager, whereas this does have some additional comics in there as well. But yeah, so it'll be John Ridgway and Steve Parkhouse and Frobisher the Penguin. So yeah, the Sixth Doctor and Frobisher might be my favourite Sixth Doctor TARDIS team.
I'm excited to read it, and if going with the Panini version, all of the Six Doctors comics are essentially collected into 2 volumes. So
yes,
if we ever do the second volume, we will have done all of his era comic-wise.
Yeah, and that second volume has Grant Morrison written stuff in it, which interestingly ties into the most recent Capaldi season, which is all I'm going to say on that. but clearly Moffat had read it.
Well, I look forward to reading that someday as well. That's great. So next month we're going to be reading the Panini collection for Voyager.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's going to be good fun.
Until next month, I've been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris, near Bromley. Happy reading.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song, Doctor Who Theme, Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. You can support the show by leaving us a rating and review on iTunes. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
You were very brave. I decided not to try to reinstall Call Recorder because it was saying, "Oh, I want to do an update." It's like, no, no, I'll do that in about 2 hours or so. Just before I met Stephen Hawking, I'd shaken the hand of Tony Blair, not realising all of the horrors that he would inflict on the country. It was before the Iraq War and such like that. But yeah, I don't know if I would shake your hand now, mate. I was young and the country was still besotted with him. So.
There's a reference to Daz when he's on the airplane on the way to New York City, playing the game F-Zero, which is a Super Nintendo game, and I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out which version of the game he was playing and how. Came down to I think he was playing it on a Nintendo DS, which had just come out at the time, and he was playing the F-Zero Maximum Velocity Game Boy Advance game from 2001, which is the most recent one that would have been compatible. So that was my big continuity conundrum. My Nintendo fanboy in me thinking, what version of the game is he playing?
Yeah, just because of nightclubs in South London, is just general.
Is it a specialist subject?
It's not a specialist subject, but nightlife of South London is something that's...
Try and get this posted no later than the 15th, hopefully.
Yes, so I can listen to it whilst I'm doing my marathon, because that is the 15th.
Oh, cool.
So that's your challenge. so
okay.
I can listen to myself in a very weird, egotistical way.
I will endeavor to make that happen.